Can a CONCACAF nation win the 2024 Copa America to be played in the United States? If we had to do a power ranking for the top CONCACAF national teams right now, what would it look like? Is Canada even top 3 right now? Well, today we are bringing back Gerson Perez, the former assistant coach of El Salvador's national team, to discuss all of that. I mean, this guy knows CONCACAF very well, and unfortunately, so do I. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to episode 2 of this mini-series with Gerson Perez. As you all may know, Gerson is the son of Hugo Perez, the former coach of El Salvador, and he was the assistant coach at the time, and obviously Hugo Perez is a US men's national team legend. For episode 1, we actually talked about the US men's national team with Gerson, giving us a lot of info on how El Salvador prepared to face the United States in World Cup qualifying, their strengths, weaknesses, why they struggled away, and why this team can't pull an upset. The mentality issue was talked about quite a bit, so go check out that episode that was released a day prior to this one. Now, for today's episode, we will do a power ranking of the current CONCACAF nations, which is essentially the top 5 or top 6 nations. Then we'll go through a very tough question of, can any CONCACAF nation win the 2024 Copa America? If yes, let me know the probability in the comment section down below and which nation you think could win. If no, I'm going to say it once again, I think you are probably right. Yeah, let's be honest. Could or can a CONCACAF nation win the Copa America? Sure. Will any of them? Probably not. So sit back, relax, get some popcorn, hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. You probably want to hit the like button before you get popcorn. Otherwise, you're going to get some butter on your phone, tablet, computer, keyboard, or whatever device you are watching me while pretending to work. Don't worry, I know you're watching this either on the toilet or at work. That's where everyone watches this channel. I won't tell your boss. And if you're watching it while you're at the toilet, it's just weird. Okay, enough of that. Let's bring in Gerson Perez. Okay, everyone, this is part 2 with Gerson Perez. Part 1 was very long. Don't worry, guys. This one will be a bit shorter, but I think this one will be more fun. Don't you? This one we're going to talk about. We're going to sort of rank the CONCACAF nations, like where you see them nowadays, obviously based on the data we have. And then I'm going to ask you a pretty bad question, actually. I don't know. It's like, can a CONCACAF nation actually win the Copa America? I'm interested in what you're going to see. I'll give you my thoughts later on, too. But Gerson, why don't you start by telling us right now, would you agree with me, actually, that the United States is clearly the number 1 team in CONCACAF right now? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, right now, yeah. I think, right now with Mexico going through whatever it is they're going through. And
midlife crisis.
I am a big, growing up, you have this rivalry with Mexico too. And as a Salvadorian, it's even bigger, I think, because in El Salvador, it's like, in the US, they confuse you with a Mexican all the time. Are you Mexican? No, I'm from El Salvador. So you always have this thing, right? But throughout my last 3 years in CONCACAF, God, the Mexican people, the Mexican coaches, the Mexican clubs, so open, so transparent, so hospitable. Every time we played in Mexico or we win with the youth national team, like, just amazing that it just changed my whole rivalry eyes. That now when I see Mexico, I want them to win, right? And my wife's from Mexico, by the way, so my kids are half Mexican. But that's why for me, it's tough to see Mexico in that. And even now I do Zooms, almost every month with coaches in Liga MX national team. We trade work, we compare stuff, we share footage, we break down games, we go over training sessions. They've created this little network that they let me in, and I love it, right? Because I get to see everything they're doing, and I learn so much. So right now, yes, U.S. is number 1, but Mexico is, I would say, almost 3, because I rank Panama very high, and I don't think people give Panama enough respect. And Christensen, sure, Christensen. You got to give the man credit, but I also think what they did Panama exporting players to Europe, exporting players to MLS, the way the league and the presidents decided to have a lot of free transfers and just get a percentage on the second sale, put them in a different level from youth national teams all the way up, because now all their guys are away in South America or in Europe or in the US. So there's very
so you
little
said US,
domestic guys.
Mexico, Panama. Who's your four?
I would say Panama and Mexico around there. Fourth, Jamaica.
I had it
I
too.
still put Jamaica there.
I
still put Jamaica there, but I worry
Jamaica.
because Jamaica is tricky, and this is where I get upset at CONCACAF. I get upset at CONCACAF because of the system, the way everything's set up. It's always so, it doesn't make any sense to you. But Jamaica can tomorrow just go to England and get a bunch of Premier League players, and then all of a sudden you're looking at this team that is going to be. Remember, we talked about the mentality high in a way. So now you have these guys with this mentality, Raheem Sterling could play for Jamaica, right? So I know,
could've.
Yeah, no, so I'm saying, but he could have played there, right? So now I think of Jamaica in Copa America. How many of those players from Premier are going to say, "Yeah, I want to go play Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina. Yeah, sign me up. I'll change." So Jamaica for me is a dark horse, and this is something I always said in El Salvador is El Salvador has this 80s mentality where we're the best team in Central America. We have the best league. We have Mágico Gonzalez. We have this. El Salvador, they still think that this is who we are. In the U.S., everybody looks at El Salvador like we look at Bermuda in El Salvador. That's the reality, right? Everybody looks at here. Nobody respects El Salvador. You coach El Salvador. That's funny. That's great. Who are you guys, and where's the country? I don't know where the country is, right? In El Salvador, this is pride. Like 2026 World Cup, we're gonna make it. We're gonna be top three because U.S., Mexico, Canada, they're out. But they forget now you have Panama, you have Jamaica, and now Honduras is waking up. And Honduras for me is always scary because they have really good players. And you thought in the World Cup qualifiers that they were going to be more than what they were just because of the players they have. And I think the U.S. beating them, was it 4-1 that game in Honduras? That killed them. I think it killed them, and it ruined the relationship between the fans and the players and the coaching staff. And that hostility, whether the fans accept it or not, their hostility is what put the team down. Because, like I said, it's different, right? Every day on TV, on your social media, on your message, you can't even open Twitter or Instagram. When you lose in El Salvador, you can't. I have to delete my app for 2 or 3 weeks for camps, 4 weeks. I have to delete it because I'll get nonstop. Like even there's a picture of me like looking half asleep. Look at this guy. That's why they lose. That's why they suck. Everything is scrutinized. So I think now Jamaica 4. I think Honduras will be 5.
Wait,
and then you have
hold on. Time out. U.S., Mexico, Panama, Jamaica, Honduras. We have 5 already. But you haven't mentioned the self-claimed CONCACAF champions, Canada.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? I've been saying this for a while. I'm glad that you didn't mention them yet because I think World Cup qualifying, Canada has some players like Alphonso Davies, like that's unreal. But I said that, and you might laugh. I don't know if you saw this tweet. You might laugh at this. I said Canada is built like an MLS roster. And what do I mean by that? They have like those 3 DPs, which are Eustachio, Davies, and what's his name, Jonathan David, the 3 DPs. Then they have a few players on a max, TAM, GAM, whatever that thing is called, which would be like Tajon Buchanan, Kyle Larin, players like that. And then after that, the depth and the drop off, because I say this, MLS has the most parity of many leagues of the top leagues in the world. By top, I mean like top 25 leagues in the world. But MLS has the most unbalanced rosters because of DP, salary cap restrictions. So you have like a Messi playing a college level player, things like that.
But let me tell you this though, because I'm going to put an asterisk on it. Okay, because Canada was the best.
Go ahead.
Canada was the best. Canada was the best team we played in qualifiers by far.
Yeah,
like just a machine in terms of what they did, the style. They were a machine. But here's where I don't think people realize this is the problems at the federation level will affect your team, and it can kill your team slowly, like you've seen Canada, right? But it will affect your team. So whatever it is that they're fighting, prize money, that already probably ruined a lot of relationships from federation to player level. Not having money for whatever it is, camps, tournament, that probably ruined the relationship between the coaching staff and the federation. Herdman leaves. Okay. Now, Canada for me is top three because of, I mean, even if you Tejan Buchanan is get that guy on the wing 1v1, he's going to beat anybody in CONCACAF, right? Alistair Johnston, great player. Herdman had this thing where their build and their mid, they can build with three and anybody becomes a three. It's really confusing. It's hard for defenders to press that because you don't know where he's coming from, the third guy. So I'm going to put an asterisk on it right now. The state of mind I think they're in right now is not good. And that's why I would put Honduras with them there. And if they can get things together, I think they can be top three. But when you ask me for I'm telling you as of today, I wouldn't have told you this a year ago. But I lived it where problems with the federation start to, get into your team environment, your culture, what you're trying to create, your bond with the players. Now, if it's about money, you have one player that might have a disagreement with the other. Maybe we should take less, just get the money now. The other's like, no, don't bend, don't bend down to them. So now you create this thing, and now there's like a group of players maybe that, wants this, and now you start to create this friction. And it's big. And the national team, it's even bigger because it's not like these guys have every day to fix it, right?
I
They
just
just
think
come in to a camp and they're together. Did you fix it? No, I didn't fix it. God, and you're probably going through meetings. And I lived it, right? Every day, every camp for us was a problem, whether how we traveled, where they gave money to the players and what was missing, whether you had cold weather gear, everything's a problem. And now it starts to bog down to the team. So I would say right now, I still put Honduras because I think they've resurged, but it could change, I think.
I just believe that nowadays in the modern game, in the past, if you go like to the 80s and 70s, and anyone that studied the game or just by talking to older players and everything, there was a higher emphasis on teams being good on attacking. So you'd have the Brazil Joga Bonito, things like that, that would work and would win you trophies. And you could almost like abdicate of, I wouldn't say abdicate of defending, but you could have a weak defense. But if your offense is so good, you get by it. That started to change a little bit in the 80s. And you look back when Brazil lost to Italy, I believe it was in the 82 World Cup, where Brazil had that team with Zico and everyone, and they lost. Paolo Rossi was the one that scored for Italy, a hat trick or something like that. And Italy went through, and it started to show that defense is what win trophies. You obviously need the quality up top, but you do need a strong back line or be good as a collective unit defending or individual players, or you won't win trophies. You can play enjoyable soccer, you can look good. If your defense is not good, you're not getting anywhere. It won't work anymore. Canada, Herdman was able to get that back line to work well as a collective unit. But personally, that's a big weakness of them. The back line, you mentioned Alistair Johnson. That's a really good player. Outside of him, very weak in the back line, easily to get beat by most of these CONCACAF teams you mentioned. The goalkeeper, Borjan, hasn't been great anymore, so they probably have to move on from him. And that is why I think Canada, if they can figure that out, and there were rumors at one point that they were going to get Tomori from Milan. That would have been a game changer. If you can get a center back from Milan, a very good one of the best English center backs, in my opinion, nowadays, better than Harry Maguire, for example, that's in the national team. So that's my concern with Canada. Now, of course, you got Tejan Buchanan, Alfonso Davies, Jonathan David, Eustáquio is one heck of a midfielder too. There's great players there. But at the same time, the weakest links in this team, they're far too weak, even compared to the nations you mentioned to deal with. Like that back line dealing with Pulisic, Reina, Balogun. We saw that in Nations League. It was tough for them. Mikel Antonio, you mentioned Premier League players. So I personally don't think Canada is as good as we think. They're also not as bad as they are right now. If I had to look at Canada from a completely non-biased perspective, I have Mexico, the U.S. ahead of Canada. Then number 3 and 4, it will alternate depending on what team is more well coached, what's going on. Like Panama nowadays, along with the quality of the players that has gone up. You talked about Christensen that's done a brilliant job with Panama too. And then Jamaica with all the Premier League players they got. You talked about how they're going to get a few. They've already gotten a few, right? Pinock plays in the Premier League. Mikel Antonio, Leon Bailey, they all play in the Premier League. Bobby D. Cordova-Reed. When you go to that, I think these teams are better than Canada right now. I do think Canada is better than Honduras, but maybe not at the moment with, like you said, the federation.
I'm an outsider just hearing about it.
Yeah.
All right. And I speak from experience when I tell you that federation problems, they go to your team and they can ruin what you have going on. So Canada, I've heard of all the stuff that's happening, and it might not be that, right? It might be that they're fine. But, the last thing you heard was that they were still waiting for some stuff from the World Cup, and, you had maybe an interim head coach. So you get through all these phases that, will affect your team at some point, right? So maybe they recover. And then the other thing, too, in CONCACAF, it takes one game for things to change. One game. Like, you lose an important game, all of a sudden your team goes mentally down, and that so that's why I said, as of today, that's how I see it. I think Honduras, their state of mind right now, the country's behind the team. They've rallied against the Salvadorian ref, right? Everybody's like united against one thing and for the team. That's going to help, I think, Honduras a lot. That's why I told you, maybe the fan bases don't realize it, but you're beating your team with sticks constantly. The guys stop responding. Now you fill up the stadium and you support them. All of a sudden they feel like, I'll play for you, right? I'll do what I need to do.
They're humans.
They're humans. We're all human, right? So that's why I said I think Honduras, when they lose 4-1 to the U.S., they fall apart. Remember, they were coming off a tie in Canada.
Yeah, you're right.
If you remember that. They were coming off a tie in Canada, and then they were playing us at home, which they tied, and that already started the friction because Honduran saying, losing to El Salvador, they said, look at that team. It has nobody in important leagues. And then they go into the U.S. And I'll go to the last factor is the way you travel, the way you eat. 3 games in 8 days, the team that travels the best and eats the best will win the third game. And that's where the U.S. has a very big advantage. Where we, our third game, we were dead tired. And then how deep is your player pool? Do you have 24 guys, 23 guys you can actually play, or do you have 12, 13, and then you're going to have to find 5 from the bench that can make something happen, right? So I think the U.S. had everything lined up for them against Honduras that game, that 4-1, because I think Honduras falls apart in the second half.
And now, before we move on to the last question, just the Copa America very quickly. You mentioned all these nations. You ranked it: U.S., Mexico, Panama, Jamaica. Then you said Honduras, Canada. One last question. Where do you see Costa Rica nowadays? Because Costa Rica, for the past several years, has been, I would say, arguably top 3 always of CONCACAF. 2014 World Cup, they were brilliant. Quarterfinals run. But it seems like that generation has aged, and they got destroyed by Panama now. I believe they also lost to Panama in the last Nations League. Gold Cup, not great. Do you think it's just a transition phase? They'll be all right? What's going on with Costa Rica from your perspective?
Look, I think it's a transition phase, and I don't know, right? I've seen their 23s. I've seen their 20s. I played against them. I lost a final against them. I should have won it. Still hurts me.
With El Salvador.
With El Salvador, the U20s, we played a tournament in Belize. We lost 5-4. We were up 4-1 with 28 minutes to go. And they put in 2 first-team guys for the first team, for the men's team, and they changed the game in a heartbeat. But, look, I don't know. I don't see Costa Rica right now digging out of it. I don't, because I don't see they're going through a generational change. The young guys are not ready. Celso Borges, Joe Campbell, that generation is passing by. You'll have Keylor Navas, Jewison Bennett. You have some guys in England, Nottingham, but I don't think they're going to reach the 2026 cycle yet. I think for the 30 cycle, they'll be back on track. I don't see, where it's going to come from that they're going to turn this around. That's why I said Honduras, Canada, if mentally they're whatever they're in Costa Rica might be in the same boat. But at this, you have to respect Costa Rica as a football nation, as the most advanced nation in Central America, in terms of academy systems, youth systems, league, how they treat their players. You can't dismiss that, but I don't know if they're ready for the transition, right? And it's almost the same thing that was happening to us in El Salvador. You had a generation leaving, and then you had a good young generation, but there's this gap that they're not there yet. So you're going to lose games. You're going to go through these, periods where you can't, match up with the best teams. And if you can grow in the problem is that qualifiers are starting in June for the nations, right? So we'll see what Costa Rica does. But, Copa America, they're not in yet. So I don't know where they're going to be, but we'll see. We'll see where if that list that I those numbers I put to you change in the next 8 to 10 months.
Yeah. So that's enough for CONCACAF ranking. I agree with you in regards to Costa Rica and in regard to Costa Rica, but they'll bounce back. They'll bounce back at some point.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like it'll be soon. Last but not least, 2024 Copa America will be played in the United States. At the time of this recording, the CONCACAF nations qualified are the United States, Panama, Mexico, and Jamaica. The other two, they're still going to play some playoffs. It could be Canada, could be Trinidad, could be Honduras, or Costa Rica. The Copa America is tough because you're facing teams like Argentina that won a World Cup, Brazil, that's always a World Cup contender, Uruguay, that's been fantastic under Bielsa recently, and they have some world-class players in that team. And on top of that, you have to play teams like Ecuador, Colombia, that have so many good players and are accustomed to playing in that tough environment. But it'll be in the United States, which that kind of helps the United States and Mexico, because Mexico will play at home. They're going to pack the stadiums. We know that. Mexico will pack a 70,000 seat stadium in the United States easily. So my question to you is this: 100,000 they'll pack, exactly. Put them in the Rose Bowl. They'll pack the Rose Bowl. So my question to you is this: is there any chance? Well, any chance you're going to say yes, but is there a realistic chance that a CONCACAF nation could win the 2024 Copa America?
Look, it's not going to be easy. Will the CONMEBOL teams bring their A squad, or will they look at this one as
I think they will.
Maybe that's what I'm saying. We'll see. Argentina brings everybody, and Uruguay, if they leave half, whatever it is. But there's always a chance. I think slim chance for sure, right? Because of the names that are playing the tournament. But I also think you're at home. Like you said, Mexico and the U.S. are at home. They'll present problems to teams for sure. Jamaica, I think that they're just the speed, what they can do, right? They're one of the fastest teams I've seen. On the camera, on TV, they look, they're fast. Sideline level, they're fast. So that can hurt you. That can hurt a lot of teams. So I think anybody can catch fire. I would say there is a chance because it's in U.S. soil. I think there is a chance a CONCACAF team can win. Obviously, the CONMEBOL teams are always more prepared for the Copa America tournaments. But you've seen Mexico get to finals in Copa America. You've seen
Peru.
You've seen it before. Yeah.
Peru, which is not better than these teams.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's a tournament, right? When you play these tournaments, it's not like a league, right? Where 32 games, whatever it is, you're going to find out who the best team is in the league. But I think in these short games, you get out of the group, you get into overtime, extra time, penalty, whatever it is, anything could happen. So I think there is a chance. I think a good chance, but it's going to be difficult. But I do think one of our teams one or two of our teams will surprise a lot of people.
You know how I distribute the odds? I'll tell you what I'm doing. So I say there's a 90% chance that Brazil, Argentina, or Uruguay will win the Copa America. I say that. 90% chance. Then the other 10% that's left, I divide 5% with the remaining CONMEBOL nations and 5% with the remaining CONCACAF nations. That's how I think it's like a fair evaluation. Or maybe what I would do is...
You think that high, huh?
It's not super high if you think about it, because the reason I'm mentioning this is you go back to the Copa America in 2019. I mean, Peru...
No, I'm saying that high for Brazil and Argentina. Uruguay.
Yes, 90%.
I'm more 65, 70.
Yeah, the reason I put it that high is I think the gap is a bit bigger than in the past. You go back, if you look at the Copa Americas, at least in the past 20 years, it's been mostly Brazil, Argentina, always as the favorites, and then Uruguay occasionally, and then you had those two that Chile won with that amazing generation they had, along with Messi and Argentina bottling it a little bit and choking, in my opinion, from those two Copa Americas. One of them was in the U.S., the one that Messi played here too.
16.
That they knocked us out in the semifinals. But Peru made it in 2019 to the semifinals. And you look at Peru on paper, they were not better than Mexico or the United States right now on paper. They were very well coached by Gareca. They caught fire during the tournament, and they were very stable. They knew what they wanted, they knew how to play, and they knew how to get the best out of their players. I think if
I
Mexico,
like 2019 Peru. I thought 2019 Peru was better than.
it was good. Gareca played a
Yeah.
big role, though. Gareca played a massive role.
No, no, he's
I
good.
think
He's good.
I think they overachieved, but what I believe is if Mexico or the U.S. can catch fire, and the coach gets the best out of the players, there's a chance. But I have to go with Brazil, Argentina, or Uruguay, giving them 90% odds of winning it. I might be over exaggerating, but that's just how it's been historically in the past 20 years. Brazil and Argentina have pretty much alternated in the Copa America, just like Mexico and the US, outside of that little and then Uruguay shows up too, but like that Chile one. So I'm going with that
No,
percentage.
like I told you, I think federation problem with the stuff happening in Argentina. I think people might not. I think I told you, federation problems start to trickle and they start to separate, and all of a sudden, team's not focused. And what happened to the team? So we'll see. We'll see if they get out of this one because Scaloni's already saying he didn't get
I hope
the
you're
money he
right.
was supposed to
I
get.
hope you're right.
Yeah, I know. I know you would want that.
Yeah.
I've always been Maradona my whole life. I grew up watching Maradona, so Argentina's always been like the team you watch because you want to have fun.
I
Even
I
though
hope
in the
I hope they
90s
get
I was a
grouped.
big
I hope they
Bebeto
get grouped.
Romario fan.
I hope they get grouped. If Argentina can lose in the group stage, the better. That's my opinion on it. They can
We'll
just
see.
get
We'll
out.
see. I don't think it's 90% though. I think it's about 70, 60. If I remember, you're playing it in the US. That'll play a role, I think, at some point.
Yes. All right, everyone. Don't forget to drop a like before you go. Let us know your CONCACAF ranking, and let us know also what we talked about. What percentage do you give for any of the nations to win the Copa America? What is your expectation? Make sure to go follow Gerson Perez on Twitter. His handle's right there next to his head. Gerson, thank you very much for taking all this time to come talk to us. An actual guy that's working with coaching and worked at the national team level. Son of Hugo Perez, a USMNT legend, which we even joked about how some people involved in U.S. soccer don't know who he is. Not the federation, by the way, but just like U.S. soccer as a whole. Not talk about the federation, but like the leagues, everything. And Jason, thank you very much once again.
No. Appreciate the time. Always happy to talk. Football. I think, like I told you, right. I grew up with the national team. Youth setups, everything. I've always been around it. So always, except when I played them, 4 times. I wanted them to lose, but every time else you see them play, you feel like a lot of people in common with the coaches, with the players. So you want success for them. But I'm proud that what was it? Out of 12 points, they only took about 8 or so. We tied twice, lost twice, but happy to have done that. And again, happy to take the time, and good luck to the US and your fans, the US fans, and I'm sure we'll enjoy plenty of good games coming up.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.